Alright guys, Dominic here for Kit Guru, and today we're bringing you our review of the Steelseries Rival 600. It's a new mouse from Steelseries, it costs £80 here in the UK, and we're going to dive straight into the design. So, it's a new design from Steelseries. It's actually a medium to large shape designed for right-handers only, so if you're a lefty, tough luck. It is, however, slightly different to what we've seen before. For instance, compared to the Rival 310, the bottom isn't quite so round, it doesn't have the same flared edge, and the texture as well, actually, of the main body is slightly different. The Rival 600 has a more of a soft touch rubberized finish, whereas the Rival 310, which is what I've been using currently, actually has a more textured, almost PBT-like plastic panel. If we switch over to the right-hand side of the mouse, there's the standard 2 forward and back buttons. However, Steelseries has put this third button right at the top. And honestly, I'm not too sure who's going to be able to reach that. You're going to have pretty big hands if you can grab that button without completely readjusting your grip on the mouse. I couldn't do it, so honestly I'm not too convinced how many people are actually going to be able to make use of that button. On the right hand side, however, there's just some more little rubber grippy sections, but no buttons there. Moving to the front of the mouse, we've obviously got the two primary buttons. Steelseries has gone with a split trigger design, which is what we've seen for them before on the Rival 310, for instance, as well as the Sensei 310. So both buttons actually use Steelseries' own branded switches, and I found the left mouse button was actually really nice. It was really tight, really crispy, nice tactile feedback. However, for some weird reason, the right hand button on my mouse actually it feels a lot more mushy. You don't get the same nice click. It doesn't feel as satisfying to touch. I think that's a bit disappointing. For £80 you obviously expect better. The quality control issues probably need looking at, and I'm not even a person who uses the right hand button that much. I usually just use it for zooming, but I know some people actually use it to move forward. So for those people, I think it'd be really disappointing. You spent £80 on a new mouse and your right hand button is kind of mushy and not very nice to use. The scroll wheel is pretty good, however. It's got a nice textured rubber to it, nice and grippy. It also has very distinct steps, so you can really feel them as you scroll up or down, and it's actually pleasantly easy to click. A lot of mouse buttons have a really high tension to click, however this one is actually nice and easy. It doesn't require that much force at all. The downside to the scroll wheel, however, is actually the DPI button, simply because it's actually raised quite a long way from the main body of the mouse. It sticks out that fair bit. So if you go and click the scroll wheel with your index finger, there's a good chance you might actually press down the DPI button just with the bottom of your finger. I found myself doing that a few times, so I think it's probably not just me. I think a few people might find that as well, and it's purely because the DPI button is quite high profile. It's not really that low profile, so that's something I would have liked to see be a bit different. The Rival 310, for example, has a much more low profile DPI button, and I had absolutely no issues with that. So to be honest, I'm not sure why Steelseries has changed it. Another thing to note is the cable, as the Rival 600 isn't actually wireless. I've just removed the cable because it's detachable. I've got it over here. It's a 2 meter rubber cable, so it's not braided, and it connects via a little keyed micro USB. So I'm not sure if a standard micro USB cable would fit. You might have to get one which has the specific plastic molding around the actual connector. However, the cable is of high quality. I had no issues with it dragging across my mouse pad or anything like that. So overall, good to see. Now, the biggest thing to do with the Rival 600 design, the biggest feature is definitely the removable side grips. There's both sides pop off using 2 magnets each, and the idea is you've got these little holes where you can put in removable weights. You get this small little pouch here. This comes in the box, and inside here we've got a selection of 8 times 4 gram weights rather. And this means you can adjust the mouse from its base weight of 96 grams. You can add up to another 32 grams to that, which would give you a total of 128. So the way this works is you simply pull out one of the weights, and all you need to do is just push it in to the little gap in the side of the mouse, and you can put up to 4 each side. However, you obviously don't have to populate all of the slots, so that means you can have a bit more customization when it comes to the balance of the mouse. But I'll actually talk on balance in just a second. The last design feature to talk about is the RGB lighting. We can see the scroll wheel is one RGB zone, The SteelSeries logo is another, and these two LED strips here, they actually comprise 3 zones each, which gives you a total of 8 zone RGB, and you can customize that using the SteelSeries engine. There's plenty of effects to choose from, and that's another thing we'll look at in just a moment. Moving on to actually using the mouse, the first thing I want to do is actually talk about the balance, as I mentioned, because I found when I use the mouse with my preferred claw grip, I put my hand on the mouse and I usually put most of my pressure on the base of the mouse. And with the Rival 600 doing that, it actually causes the top of the mouse to pop up slightly. It's just putting too much pressure on the base of the mouse causes it to lift off, so there's obviously a slight imbalance in the design of the mouse. This isn't an issue I've ever actually had before as well, so it's particularly frustrating. It doesn't happen when I use the Rival 310. I can put as much pressure on the base of that mouse as I want and it won't lift up, so it seems it's only the Rival 600. The obvious solution would be to actually use the mouse weights which are included. However, the Rival 600 is 96 grams already, and that's already probably 6 grams higher than I would like. So if I wanted to add another 8 to that and make it 104 grams, that's definitely getting a bit heavy for my liking. So I don't feel like you should be forced into the weight system just because SteelSeries hasn't made a balanced mouse in the first place. However, if we do put that to one side, actual optical performance is excellent. The big thing with the Rival 600 is the TrueMove 3 Plus sensor. So with the Rival 310 we saw the TrueMove 3, and now we have the Plus, and essentially the only difference is it's now got an entirely dedicated sensor on the bottom of the mouse for lift-off distance. So in SteelSeries engine you can actually choose, there's 10 different options of lift-off distance between low and high, and that will set it between 0.5mm and 2mm. So it actually gives you a really in-depth, easy to use way of customizing the lift-off distance really precisely, which is really good to see. On the lowest setting, the mouse actually wouldn't track on some areas of my mouse pad, so that tells you how crazy precise it is. I left it dead in the middle and it worked really well. And the other aspect of the TrueMove 3 Plus is the actual TrueMove 3 itself. This is based on the PMW 3360 from Pixar. Flawless sensor, there's no unwanted acceleration, no angle snapping, smoothing, anything like that. I could track pixel to pixel with dead accuracy, so overall using the Rival 600 for gaming, photo editing as well as producing these videos, I had no problems in terms of the optical performance. Lastly, just a quick look at the software. Open SteelSeries Engine 3 and you can choose between whatever SteelSeries peripherals you've got connected. I'll click the Rival 600 and then this bigger tab appears, and here pretty much all the settings are in just one page. You can choose, there's a separate little tab for your RGB lighting, and you can actually highlight all of the different zones. There's 8 in total, and you can set each of those to different colors if you wish, and there's also a bunch of different color effects you can choose from. If we head back to the main settings tab, you can see over here you've got the different mouse button functions. It's interesting, by default button 6, which is that side button which is pushed really far to the front, that's actually disabled by default. Now over on the right hand side you've got sensitivity. You can choose between two different stages. These can be increased in increments of 100 dpi. At the bottom you've got lift-off distance, you can choose between low and high, which is 0.5 to 2mm. There's acceleration and deceleration, angle snapping, and lastly polling rate. So that is actually pretty much it for SteelSeries Engine 3. It's pretty simple, but I think it gets the job done. It's got a nice clean interface, and overall there's not really much to complain about. Now, wrapping up our review of the SteelSeries Rival 600, I have to say on the whole I am a bit disappointed with it. I'm going to be sticking with my Rival 310. There are a few things I'm not too keen on. First, the raised DPI button, just a bit inconvenient, but more significantly, the right hand button on my sample was quite mushy, didn't have the nice tight feeling of the left mouse button, so that was disappointing. And also, the mouse is imbalanced, so I just put my weight on the back of the mouse and it would cause the front to lift up, which is really not ideal, and I don't want to be adding more weights to it anyway, because it's already a bit too heavy for my liking. I can understand if you are the kind of person who wants to add a few weights, particularly if you like to play with the lift-off distance as well. The Rival 600 is likely to appeal to you. I just feel for 80 quid, you really should be getting better build quality, especially I feel like you should definitely be getting a mouse that's actually balanced, and the right mouse button being a bit mushy and not feeling that great is another disappointing factor for me. So I'm Dominic for Kit Guru. This is my review of the SteelSeries Rival 600 mouse. If you like this video, you can hit thumbs up, you can hit thumbs down if you didn't, and leave us a comment below. Also subscribe if you haven't already to see more videos from us in the future. And lastly, we'd like to chat with you over on Twitter and Facebook so you can connect with us there. I'm Dominic for Kit Guru. This has been our review of the SteelSeries Rival 600 and we will see you in the next video.